My name is Abigail Louis. I'm a fifth year music and science student at the University of Queensland, and my area for music in particular is composing and violin. And I really love in my practice as a music writer and as someone who performs music to see how those interact with each other and all of the links of knowledge that come through that. Before we go further, I'd like to acknowledge the country we're on, the Darug people where this conference is being held, and the Turrbal and Yuggera people of Brisbane or Meanjin, where I've conducted my research. Stories have been told on this land and shared for tens of thousands of years, and my research continues in this tradition. So for a bit of fun, since this is arts research, we're going to do our presentation in 3 acts. We'll start with some context of where we're going. Where have we been before we come here? We'll go on a journey through some methods and some qualitative analysis, and then I'll be drawing out some outcomes in terms of arts practice with themes, insights, and a summary. Before we go further, this is a bit of the music that came out of this project. This was part of a commission through ABC Classic. I was commissioned to write a string quartet for these 4 lovely people who are at the Australian National Academy of Music. And the piece in question is inspired by the winds that blow through Brisbane along the river during spring. More of that music, we're releasing halfway through next year, so contact me for those details of album release. So let's go for some context. So we see historically and also in contemporary examples that performing experience really strengthens composing practice. We see this through what is called more in today's music world as composer performers, so people who both write music and also perform it. You see this in violin composers historically, like Kreutzer. You see this through contemporary practitioners as well. And we see that there's real links and also inspirations cross-disciplinarily. However, we see a real divide of composer and performer roles. We see this come up particularly in the last 50 years or so, as orchestras and as programs have gotten bigger, and also as conservatories, like music training institutions, have changed how they train their musicians. We see this siloing of disciplines right from the get-go. We also see alongside this a sidelining of performer knowledge. This is particularly because in classical music, the score is held up as this really high thing, and everybody kind of bows to the score and tries to fulfill the score's material, so we see this kind of diminishing of oral forms of music. However, there's been a real return in arts practice to valuing flexible roles and flexible ways of making music. Various arts practitioners have looked into the benefits, challenges, and models for collaboration. So let's look at the relevance of this research. This research aims to understand how musicians collaborate effectively when making new music. Since we see historically that there's so much benefit and so much that can be drawn from working in this cross-disciplinary way, how do we do that well? And also, on a relevance level, this research aims to help us foster cross-disciplinary creative practice for industry. Arts industries are increasingly cross-disciplinary in the way they work. This is really important for employment, so how do we do this in a way that's life-giving and nourishing and effective for everyone involved? So my focus area was looking at composing music and how that's informed by string instrumentalist expertise. I had 2 areas of focus. I had my own personal exploration of violin repertoire, and I also had the process of workshopping new music with participants. So, for those of you who are more STEM inclined, this is a qualitative form of arts research, and there's some differences that I'll take you through, but I want to start you at the top left corner. So, I started by studying violin repertoire over the course of the year, and then that informed my practice of composing for string instruments. I then collaboratively workshopped my music with instrumentalists to see what could be changed, what was effective, what was difficult about the music. I then looked at and drew some insights from this through semi-structured focus group interviews that were thematically analysed. And then I had 3 arts research outputs. So in arts research, the artistic output and also the written component comprise equal partners of your output. So you can see that there's a written exegesis, which I'm presenting today, and then also composition portfolio and a live performance. So here's my details for the interview that I conducted. I conducted 2 semi-structured focus group interviews. My participants were 5 classically trained string instrumentalist collaborators. I had 3 kind of broad question areas to do with how their prior instrumental training affected their performance. Also what the process of preparing the repertoire was like. What were the challenges and what were the rewards of going through this process? I analysed the interview transcripts using Brown and Clark's method of thematic analysis, probably quite familiar to the qualitative people in the room. You've got your 6 steps here that I put for your reference, but basically the process is looking at how can we look at transcripts and see what are the repeated words and ideas, what are the themes then that we can draw out as we zoom out and see what are the things that have been consistently talked about in this process. So these were the 6 themes that we generated as a result of Brown and Clark's method. You can see them here listed, but I want you to mostly focus on this idea that there's both interpersonal elements and there's elements to do with the craft of music making too. So you've got 2-way collaboration, it's got a very interpersonal side, and then also that practical side of things. And here are a few quotes from the participants, that they found it really beneficial to explore that 2-way street between the performer and the composer. So you've got that collaborative aspect. And then you've also got stuff to do with the music content too. So I'm going to take us through 3 key insights before we wrap up. These are insights mostly for composers writing music. How can they write it in a way that it's accessible and useful for people who are performing it? Since it's a conference presentation, 3 C's for our composers. We've got navigating comfort and challenge, clear communication, and musical content. And we'll be starting up at the left first. So I found it really interesting that participants emphasised a balanced approach to the music making process. They emphasised that they wanted challenges in the music that expanded their skills but weren't frustrating to put together. And they also repeatedly emphasised that overcoming challenge has pedagogical and personal benefits. I found this really cool as a composer because it wasn't like, okay, get rid of all the challenges because I want to make this as easy as possible put together in the short amount of time we have. But it was more a case of what challenges are beneficial or useful or worth it to do. The big idea being that composers balance the innovative, intuitive, and the impossible in their writing. Secondly, the big idea for this one was to do with score writing. So what dots and words do composers actually put on the page? What are useful to communicate? And the biggest thing that was coming across to me was, this idea of less is more. So in terms of very micro details of score management, such as markings to do with how loud or soft the music is and also how fast or slow the music is, they emphasized that the blow-by-blow account was not necessary and that it really kind of made matters more difficult to work with. And they also emphasized that if you put less on the page, you actually encourage more creativity because you encourage unique interpretations from every group and you value embodied knowledge. Helpful details, however, were the broader ones to do with sound balance and the character of musical ideas. And then this one, the main thing with musical content was mostly just that when you have less parts playing at once, that this can also be clearer too. So here's my summary, 6 themes and 3 insights, and I'll be taking some questions now.